So in this segment, we're going to be talking about hive of inactivity. Johnson under fire for approach in his final weeks as Prime Minister, which is odd, considering most Prime Ministers generally in their final weeks try and get through the last things that they didn't do. They didn't really get a chance to do effectively. For most Prime Ministers, the certain knowledge of their premiership coming to an end sparks a frenetic final effort to complete as much of their final policy agendas as possible and secure a legacy. But Johnson has secured his legacy. That's the thing. I think this article was a bit weird in that respect. I mean, he was the Prime Minister that got us out of the EU. That's legacy defining, whether it's good or bad. A legacy in itself, it's good or bad, right? It's black and white, almost in a sense. Brexit is his legacy, and anything else he doesn't care about. Being Prime Minister itself is what he wanted. He wanted to be like Churchill. He thinks he's going to make a comeback like Churchill did. That's what he sees his legacy as. Policies, not really. He doesn't care too much about intricate policies and things like that. He's very bored, get Brexit done, lie about levelling up. I mean, he's the British politician that changed the game, I'll be honest with you. He very much pushed us into a post-resignation world. Every scandal, which he should have resigned at, he didn't. Johnson's decision to spend his last months thanking his supporters at Chequers, holding a wedding party and taking a holiday weeks before his time in Downing Street expires. This is an enigmatic end for an enigmatic premiership. I thought enigmatic was meant to mean something good, but it means difficult to interpret or understand. An enigma, I suppose that makes sense. According to one of the country's best-known contemporary historians, Sir Anthony Selden, who's written books on Blair, Brown, Cameron and May's premierships, said Johnson's approach contrasted sharply with that of his predecessors. Blair and May, two recent Prime Ministers who knew their time in office was ending, both scrambled hard to ensure their final weeks were not wasted. In contrast, Johnson's final weeks have been lackadaisical. He hasn't done much. He's on holiday, the Chancellor's on holiday, no one's doing anything. Whereas this is all lackadaisical. It's odd because the story of the Johnson Premiership is an incomplete work. The things he cared about, levelling up, he never cared about levelling up though. Getting the Brexit dividend, never cared about that. Creating the stronger economy, never cared about that. And in his eyes, he's already done it because we were the fastest growing economy in the G7 at one point. Creating a strong position for Brexit in the world, didn't care about that. Being the most decisive Prime Minister on the environment, again, he didn't care about any of these things. And not really. He just cared about something that was going to define his legacy, something big, something everyone can say, look, that changed the game, which he did. He pushed us into a post-resignation world where scandals don't matter, and he got Brexit done. He took us out of the EU. That's something people will talk about for decades. Not in good terms, not in glowing terms, but they'll talk about it. Johnson was accused of being missing in action last week. I mean, you got Kit Malthouse chairing Cobra meetings when it should be the Prime Minister, and you got Johnson, throwing a grenade, flying in a fighter jet, doing so many other things, taking photo ops with Zelensky, which has been doing his entire premiership, and of course, partying at Tory donors' houses, effectively. You've got Gordon Brown coming out saying set an emergency budget or risk a winter of dire poverty. Gordon Brown has been speaking more recently and has trying to push the government to do something far more than Boris Johnson or Keir Starmer have been doing. Boris Johnson, who is effectively the government, has done nothing. Keir Starmer's been very quiet. Gordon Brown, at least shows he cares to an extent where he's coming out and saying, look, do something, like try at least. And the government aren't doing that. You've got Liz Truss joke policies, Sunak joke policies. I mean, it's madness. None of these people have any idea what they're doing, and Johnson is under fire for effectively not doing a good job in his final few months as government. He's been absent. I think he realised the party are going to kick him out. Why should he do anything? At the end of the day, the bigger mess he leaves now, the more his predecessor, the person who comes after him has to deal with, and that's all he wants. He wants the next few years, in the next year or two, to be a mess, and then he wants to come back. He's gambling that Liz Truss will be Prime Minister for a year, and then they'll vote her out. That's kind of what his plan is. They'll vote her out, and then he'll come back. That's his gamble. He's a joke, honestly, an absolute joke. He has no idea what he's doing. He's on holiday, wasting taxpayers' money on these weird, kind of fantasy things, like flying a Typhoon jet, throwing a grenade, etc. I mean, words cannot describe how much I dislike this man. But anyways, the British only elect mediocre politicians. I genuinely believe that. These politicians average at best. At best, 1 out of 10's at worst, genuinely. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.